So just to turn the camera around. So here's the thing. The then you might have come to some idea what I'm trying to talk about. So dunes or sand, which is the problem. It's a common theme that fire rivals the cold. Nonetheless, fire and sand are in the world at intervening rescue before it centigram. Tell tell it. Tell it. Yeah. Um, Meaning, usually you would need to assume that wind forms sand by some idea. So, but if observing dunes in the night, the real if is from the cold by wind, meaning that's the question. Is that true? Well, here's the problem. It's difficult, hence sand is much of a common theme that is not so easily to be described. Nonetheless, in fact, the cold is not which opposites fire, is it? It seems to be more the sand. And if you observed the midday after night when the dunes form, you realize it's not by water, it's not when the sea rises or something interacts with it. It's much more by when in the night there is some interaction with what is around or from the dunes, better said forth or from the dunes, there is a forming of something like it, of it. Now mathematically that's actually pretty easy to prove. So if C is any form or number, for example calculated to or A1, then A plus X, for example 1, equals C to equate the fourth guiding to rational by at process, meaning this equals a linear equation. But if C, if now A is derived to A1, it equals always the minimal of ratio. But any though C unequals form, for example encapsulate a standard forward meaning equation for example, then a no noted in quintet temp. So we usually know then if that is the truth, an equation is calculated for the form to be not but to be something of it, then the whole idea is suddenly different. It suddenly starts to become much more different. Temp. Noted did not qualia at inter equals temp, meaning at no moment or so punct as or meaning or then no, a is not to derive at any rational number, for example. So by now you would need to use cosinus or tangents to really arrive at a minimum of ratio. So that's interesting. So that is a simple mathematical proof for something that is usually irrelevant. It's also more philosophical to be understood. But if you now observe a dune at night, you start to come to a weird, interesting observation at best. Meaning the observing dunes really, if interacting with a night's loom or a wind of it, or even anything off that is far from it, to any of these ideas, they somehow seem to be arriving not at anything, but they rather form randomly till something is more of a dune or a dune appears. So none of this seems to be the case, when in fact that is a simple philosophical proof, or better said a syntactical one, but not syntax. So a dune is formed by the wind that arrives on it. Now the sand that was not is not at minimum of ratio, hence it is not the split part, but it needs to be evaluated at that is the split part, so the form is the same, but hence the interaction is not then a knotted, tainted, not at any of that type of critical is tainted, not at any derived. Is suddenly that. It's then that at no moment A, meaning it derives a rational number, suddenly the dunes are formed. And that means dunes are not formed by the wind at all, but by the interaction from it with the lunar somehow, meaning even at the time of the lunar, and for that the idea must be that something is in interaction with which lays on where the dunes want not to be or to form. When then the wind interacts with them, they form anew in a random pattern, and suddenly they're brought away from where they are and brought towards the sea, which is a simple mathematical explanation for it. Hence, the dunes don't fit that idea. If sea is their calculated form, they cannot form so that they would always arrive at the sea. It's at least a graded process, if you want to call it that way, which of course completely wrong, called the way. So deriving at a rational number, just like A would in case of no form, would need to be the best answer. Hence, the dunes are randomly formed, and something must be laying around them or laying under them to be influencing the process, but nonetheless they always arrive for the sea, and that means they, if such, then are not often encapsulated, but no, also not tainted standard. So they derive to a rational number. Thus, philosophical proof is somehow also relevant. Hence now we're talking about the night, not the night. So that is interesting. Hence, at this moment, then, that conclusion needs to be the correct one. Meaning A plus X in that case equals C if calculated with an equation which C would be, then there suddenly is not a rational number, but the dunes arrive to that. So they're of this idea, but nonetheless they calculate the standard model, meaning A plus X by A as minimal of ratio arriving equals C, best spoken, somehow wrongly. For that, the proof is simple. by in number 2 syntax. And if that is not enough, the tune basically resembles by fourth guiding the C, not number, but syntax. Hence, it is not evoluted, or better said, development. Thank you for this.